So I would not be doing this if I didn't think I could do a really good job at this job. And I think I have a resume to suggest that I can do a really good job at this. And I start out with the fact that I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. When I was a junior in college, I started a one-man handyman business. This was in 1974. I started a one-man handyman business, me, and grew that business to employ over 1,000 individuals. Became New Mexico's largest construction employer. Architects, engineers, electricians, pipe fitters, plumbers. Really, American dream come true. If you show up on time, do what you say you'll do for people, do a little bit more than what you say you'll do for people. I sold that business in 1999. Nobody lost their job, and they're doing better than ever. It allows me to have a full-time, unpaid job running for President of the United States. I'm also an athlete, and I think that's important. It's one of my passions. I have a goal to climb the highest mountain on each continent. I've had the good fortune to climb Mount Everest. And I'm saying this to you to tell you that that was a very humble experience. I did not conquer Mount Everest. Anybody that says they conquered Mount Everest, that's just not true. We got really lucky. She raised her skirt and gave us a peek, and it was a wonderful experience. But in that endeavor of climbing Mount Everest, 6 weeks before I left for Nepal, I broke my leg. I had a full fracture of my tibia. And I went to the orthopedic surgeon, and he said, hey, you can still climb Mount Everest, but no cast, no anti-inflammatories, no painkillers, and an experimental bone healing device that actually works. And I want you in the swimming pool tomorrow. And my leg is twice as big as my good leg. And that's what I did. So I left for Nepal with a broken leg that I thought would be healed by the time that I got to the top. But I think it's our lives. It's the lives we live. Nothing goes according to plan. Nothing. And when things get in the way, we have choices. One is you can lay on the couch and you're a victim and that's the way things are. Or you can just accept the facts that things do get in the way. And it's how you deal with the adversity that comes into our lives that determine whether or not we succeed or fail. And I want to offer you all some advice that you're not asking for, and it's worth exactly what you're paying for, which is nothing. And that is that whatever you love to do in your life, get as much of it as you possibly can. If you're not doing what you love, quit, and tomorrow do what you love to do, because there's nothing more satisfying or more rewarding. Whatever it is you are studying, do it, apply it entrepreneurially. Go into business for yourself. The rewards are enormous beyond finding yourselves working for somebody else. So that's the advice that I'm giving you. When I ran for governor of New Mexico, I ran completely outside the political system. Totally. I went and I introduced myself to John Latuzio, who was the chairman of the Republican Party in New Mexico 2 weeks before I announced my candidacy as governor of New Mexico. Now, I had no prior political experience, none. I'm introducing myself to the chairman of the Republican Party. And you know what he says? He says, Gary, man, I love you. I love your story. Wow, you're going to be value-added in this. We're inclusive. We're going to include you in all the debates, in all the discussions. You can go to all the meetups. You know what? You can make your pitch to every Republican in the state as to why you should be governor. But you just need to know that I don't think you're going to win the Republican nomination. And even if you win the Republican nomination, the state's 2-to-1 Democrat, there's no way you'll get elected governor of New Mexico. It's just not going to happen, but have at it. Well, I had at it, and I actually actually won. And I'd like to think it was based on what I had to say, which was, let's just bring a common sense business approach to state government. Best product, best service, lowest price, less government is better, keep government out of the bedroom, allow me to make choices that only I should make, I win. And in that context, in serving as governor of New Mexico, I think I distinguished myself in many areas, but one of them was, I may have vetoed more legislation than the other 49 governors in the country combined. I vetoed 750 bills when I was governor of New Mexico. I had thousands of line item vetoes as governor of New Mexico. I took line item veto to a new art form. Only 2 were overridden, so it made a difference when it came to billions of dollars worth of spending. It made a difference when it came to legislation that was going to criminalize activity for me, for activities that I may have engaged in my life, or could find myself in that kind of a circumstance. I vetoed legislation that was just going to add time and money to our lives. It wasn't going to make us any safer. It wasn't going to make us any more healthy. And I stood up and I said no. Now, in a state that's 2-to-1 Democrat, I should have gotten ridden out on a rail. But what happened, I got re-elected by a bigger margin the second time than the first time. And what I think it speaks volumes to is the fact that people really do appreciate good stewardship of tax dollars. So over the last year, there have been a couple of studies and a poll done that I think are very significant. One was a poll done on all of the presidential candidates and the favorabilities of those presidential candidates in his or her own state. Do you know there's only one presidential candidate viewed favorably in his or her own state, and that's me? And how does that manifest itself? In New Mexico, actually people wave at me with all 5 fingers, not just one. Came out with a study on which presidential candidate has the best record when it comes to job creation. Well, that was me. And here's the response I had to that, which was the same response I had when I was governor of New Mexico. I did not create one single job as governor of New Mexico. The private sector creates jobs. But I did appoint the heads of all the agencies. I appointed all the boards and commissions. I controlled all the rules and regulations, and I want to tell you, rules and regulations got better on a daily basis with just a basis in common sense. More time, more money to have to comply with government? Why do it? And in that vein of common sense, business went to bed knowing that things weren't going to get any worse. There was certainty that was created. And then lastly, last December, the ACLU came out with a report card on all the presidential candidates. Now the ACLU, a group dedicated to the Constitution, a group dedicated to the first 10 amendments of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, a group dedicated to civil liberties, they came out with a report card on all of the presidential candidates. 24 Liberty Torches was a perfect score. This is important. Mitt Romney and Rick Santorum had 0 Liberty Torches out of 24. Newt Gingrich had 4 Liberty Torches out of 24. Barack Obama had 16 Liberty Torches out of 24. Ron Paul had 18 Liberty Torches out of 24. And Gary Johnson had 21 Liberty Torches out of 24. So in this presidential race, there are many third-party candidates, but I'm the only third-party candidate that is going to be on the ballot in all 50 states. Now, right now, we are on the ballot in 47 of the 50 states and the District of Columbia, and we are litigated in the other 3 states. We believe that we are going to prevail, but no other third party comes close to 50 state ballot access. Putting this into perspective, I believe the Green Party is next in line, and I believe they will be on the ballot in 30 states. So when I talk about myself and my opponents, I am talking about Mitt Romney and Barack Obama. So what you didn't hear in this debate the other night, and what I would have said in this debate the other night, and what I say in deference to these 2 candidates, let me go down the list. I'm the only candidate that would not bomb Iran. We're going to find ourselves in a 2-year bombing maintenance program of Iran. And after 9/11, the largest demonstration in the world in support of the United States was in Iran. Over 1 million citizens showed up in Tehran in support of the United States. And we're going to bomb the citizens of Iran? We're going to make ourselves another 100 million enemies to this country that we otherwise would not have. Right now, inflation in Iran is running at 70%. It is a bad, bad scene. And the reason inflation is running at 17% or 70% is because of our trade embargo against Iran. Does Iran hate their government for the fact that inflation is at 70%? No, they hate the United States because the United States is behind this. So there are alternatives to the constant military interventions that go on and on and on. So in that context, I'm the only candidate that will get out of Afghanistan tomorrow. We have hundreds of millions of enemies to this country because of our military interventions. When the drone flies overhead and hits the target, it doesn't just hit the target. It kills a lot of innocent people, and as a result of that, friends, family, business associates, they vow revenge against the United States, even if it includes giving up of their own lives. Our military interventions need to stop. Politicians that beat their chests in the name of elect me or re-elect me, and I'll save you from the ills of the world, including the terrorists. So in that vein, hundreds, tens of thousands of innocent civilians die. Our men and servicewomen come back in body bags or with their limbs blown off. Stop. Stop the insanity. Syria right now, we're backing the Syrian insurgents, and 1/4 of the Syrian insurgents are Al-Qaeda. We learned nothing. Didn't this happen in Afghanistan with Osama bin Laden? We learned nothing. I am the only candidate that would have stood up and said marriage equality is a constitutionally guaranteed right. The only candidate that says end the drug wars now, legalize marijuana now. We are at a tipping point when it comes to marijuana. It's on the ballot in Colorado this fall to regulate marijuana like alcohol. I think it's going to pass. I think it's going to be the first of 50 state dominoes that fall. Citizens of Denver 6 years ago voted to decriminalize marijuana on a campaign based on marijuana being safer than alcohol. Coloradans get this. And how does that equate to the other states? I think when Colorado votes to do this, and everybody in Cincinnati gets on an airplane to go to Denver for the weekend and chill out, I think 50 states fall in line with rational drug policy. the states, to the municipalities. And if I'm elected President of the United States and Congress doesn't abolish the TSA, guess what? I'm in control of the TSA. I hire the head of the TSA. I guarantee you that in a very short amount of time, TSA will be less intrusive and as safe. That's how this works from an administrative standpoint, from the standpoint of executive orders. I'm the only candidate that would not have signed the National Defense Authorization Act. U.S. citizens without being charged. I am the only candidate that is promising to submit a balanced budget to Congress now, 2013. Yeah. A $1.4 trillion reduction in federal spending now, because if we don't get this under control, we're going to find ourselves in a monetary collapse. And what's a monetary collapse? A monetary collapse, very simply, is when the dollars in your pocket don't buy a thing because of the accompanying inflation that goes along with borrowing and printing money to the tune of 43 cents out of every dollar that we spend. So here we have a debate the other night between Obama and Romney talking about debating over who's going to spend more money on Medicare, when we need to have a raging debate and discussion in this country on how we slash Medicare spending, because we all recognize that what we're doing is not sustainable. Medicare is a program that all of us pay over our lifetimes $30 into, and we receive a $100 benefit. In what way is that sustainable? That needs to be the raging debate and discussion. And defense, you know what? I don't want to cut a penny from defense, but I want to cut 43% from the military budget. The military budget. Takes us back to 2003 spending levels, and I suggest to you that the biggest threat to our national security is the fact that we borrow and print money to the tune of 43 cents out of every dollar we spend. Right now in this country, crony capitalism is alive and well. Buy your loophole, buy your deduction, both parties sell it. It's not a level playing field. So I am the only candidate proposing to eliminate income tax, eliminate corporate tax, abolish the IRS, and replace all of it with one federal consumption tax that by any measurement is a lot more fair than what we currently have. It would really reboot the American economy for the next 100 years. It ends up being cost neutral over a very short amount of time. It bleeds all federal taxes out of all goods and services for export. So it's the answer when it comes to China. Not embargoes on, not tariffs. Look who benefits from tariffs when it comes to China. Nobody benefits. If China wants to subsidize the goods and services that it sends to the United States, whose advantage is that? It's us, because we paid less for this stuff. Who's at a disadvantage? It's China. And in a free market approach to trade, that will level itself out. Back to the fair tax. It's the answer when it comes to jobs. If tens of millions of jobs are not created in this country with a zero tax rate environment, zero corporate tax rate environment, what does it take to create tens of millions of jobs? And it's really the answer when it comes to manufacturing jobs. Manufacturing jobs will flock back to the United States given a zero corporate tax rate environment. I would be the only candidate on stage, I'm the only candidate running for President of the United States that would sign legislation banning the Federal Reserve, abolishing the Federal Reserve. This is crony capitalism at its best. Treasury prints this money, they give it to the Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve gives it to the banks at 0%. The banks don't loan it out to you or I because they can buy treasuries in a closed loop. They can make money with no risk whatsoever. Who pays for those profits? You and I pay for those profits. How do you get into a game like that? And that's what exists in this country. I'm the only candidate running for president that would repeal legal tender laws and allow for competing currencies, which would allow our currency to actually have a commodity base in that currency. I ran 2 campaigns for governor where I did not mention my opponent in print, radio, or television. I just think people are hungry to vote for somebody as opposed to the lesser of 2 evils. I do not buy on to negative advertising at all, and I saw a statistic here last week that Obama ran 82,000 negative ads against Romney last month. Romney, I'm sure, ran the same equal amount of negative ads against Obama. Don't we really want to vote for somebody as opposed to the lesser of 2 evils? A word about President Obama. I think everything out of his mouth is just music. I liken it to a violin. Can you really disagree with anything that he says? I find difficulty disagreeing with anything that he says, but the reality doesn't match up with the words at all. It just doesn't match. He promised he would not crack down on medical marijuana facilities as an example. Look, if legislatures, if citizens vote to implement these programs, I'm not going to spend federal dollars cracking down on this. These are states' issues. He's cracking down, closing down medical marijuana facilities in California and Colorado, and I just use this as an example of he promised to not do this. And he said some really favorable things, I thought, when it came to marriage equality and gay rights, and effectively he's not doing anything with regard to that. And then I so thought that we were going to end these military interventions. And he's been as militaristic as any president that we've ever had. And so what changes regardless of whether Obama or Romney get re-elected? Or elected. I just suggest to you, either one of them are elected, we're going to find ourselves with a heightened police state. We're going to find ourselves in a continued state of military intervention. We're going to find ourselves continuing to borrow and spend money in a way that is absolutely not sustainable. So here we arrive now at an election where this whole notion of wasted vote. What is more of a wasted vote than voting for somebody that you don't believe in? Yeah! Change things as we vote for the person that we most believe in, and that's how we change things. And I want to make a request of all of you. And that request is, I want to ask you all to consider wasting your vote on me. And if you waste your vote on me, I could be the next president of the United States. And I guarantee you these issues will be addressed. Thank you very, very much. Live free.